Hey everybody, we're back in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, talking about money again. It says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous." This verse is all about long-term thinking, long-term planning and saving as relates to your money and to your work. There is no better motivation to work hard, maybe to work a bad job, to endure maybe even mistreatment in the workplace for the sake of your children. If you're thinking about your kids and the life they're going to have, or your grandchildren, that's going to motivate you to work harder, to think smarter about what you do, and not try to cram everything into your life for right now. I think we've, in America, had some excellent examples of immigrants coming from other countries, knowing they're going to have a rough go of it, but they're preparing the way for their children. And the Bible says that's a good thing to do. And this is specifically talking about an inheritance that is large enough to leave for your grandchildren even. And that's a good thing, the Bible says. There should be in the church no stigma attached to those who accumulate wealth and money and then pass it along. There are some that don't like folks that accumulate money, and then there's some that don't think you should be allowed to pass it on. But both of those things are biblical. Now you hear that and you might say, but Tyler, what about what Jesus said? Didn't Jesus say something else? Well, he did. It's in Matthew 6, verses 19 through 21. He said, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So this is an important lesson. Solomon just said that a good man leaves an inheritance, and that involves laying up treasure, does it not? And then Jesus said, don't lay up treasure. So what's going on? I mean, the important lesson that Jesus has given us here is that your money should not own you. Your heart should not be in your money, in your things. Even the world will say that, right? The things that you own shouldn't own you. Well, that's very biblical. And the love of money is a snare, right? Paul told that to Timothy. And we need to be aware of that we don't fall into greed. We've talked about get-rich-quick schemes on this channel. We've talked about being selfish and petty. But what we need to understand is that if Jesus said, "Do not lay up treasures on earth but in heaven," and Solomon said that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, both those things are in the Bible. We never pit scriptures against one another. If they're both in there, they're both true, which means they both have something to teach us. And I think a lesson that we can learn from this is the person saving up treasure for his children and his children's children is not doing that for himself. He's doing that to take care of his family. And this is what happens. The accusation comes against those who work hard and get money and say, well, you're just being selfish. Let me tell you something. Frittering away your money on foolish things is not godly. Say, well, I don't save any money. Well, yeah, because you spend it all on restaurants and you spend it all on clothes and cars and everything else. So by the time you die, you've got nothing to leave to anybody. That's not godly. That is selfish. That's using your treasures in the moment rather than preserving them and using them for a godly purpose. Nor is jealousy godly, by the way. Looking at somebody that has what you don't have and then coming up with a theory that explains why you should have what they have and that they're actually wrong when maybe you haven't done the work that you need to do. Maybe you've been handed a different set of circumstances. The important thing is that we don't resent or put jealousy on other people. Applying all of God's wisdom together will produce a blessing. If you're raising money, saving money for your children, that's a good thing. But Jesus reminds us, don't make it all about treasures on earth. You should leave a better inheritance to your children, which is a godly legacy, but we need to make sure that we don't miss the financial point that Solomon is trying to make. And here's what the Bible tells us to. If you say, I can't be rich and serve the Lord, I can't be rich and be righteous or be godly, that's actually not the case. Look at what Paul says, and I've read this verse before, in 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19. He says, "As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They, the rich, are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life." Do you see that? That by being generous, by setting their hope on Christ, by not being close-fisted with their money, a rich person may lay up treasure in heaven. So Jesus told us, don't lay up treasures on earth, lay them up in heaven. And Paul said it's possible for a rich person to do that by being generous, looking to Christ, and thinking about other people, which is exactly what Solomon said. So Work hard to provide something for your kids, for those who are in need around you, for those in the church, and even to leave an inheritance that your grandchildren can enjoy. Even a rich person who is storing up an inheritance can be generous and loose-handed. It's all about treasure in heaven, and the Bible tells us that one way to lay up treasure in heaven is to provide an inheritance for your family. Work hard. Don't blow all your money on yourself. Don't be lazy in the workplace because you want to get home and watch TV or play video games. Get out there and work hard thinking about your kids that are coming along behind you. And more than that, do it for the Lord. See your work and your management of your money as being a steward of what God has given to you. And you want to be a good steward, not somebody that blows the money and then says, I'm being righteous because I'm not accumulating it. Don't lay up treasures on earth. Lay up treasures in heaven. And one way you can do that is by taking care of your family. God bless, guys.